Yep.
So I put the first one up, which was just thanks for putting the like design issue together to talk about sort of reviewers things. I started commenting on some of it. I'll probably comment some more, but um, just a thanks for like thinking through that and adding all the examples of what other people are doing. It's an impressive issue. So
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. It was something I wanted to do last week. Yeah, the New Year's Eve week. But yeah, I got. I was doing other things with my free time, so I didn't make any progress on that. But yeah, take your time because it's a lot to digest, and I actually want people to take some time to reflect on what's there as food for thought, and also to, I mean, if they want to do their own research as short or long as they want,
yeah,
because we have some time here, and I don't want to have too many um, intuitive reactions to the content. I want people to think about it and reflect. Okay, if we went down this path or that path, uh, what would, where would we be in the future? Where would that lead us? Would it be a good place for us to continue evolving or not? Um, and yeah, so there's a lot there, and I thought it was better to separate that from the main issue, which would probably be the implementation issue, and also from the epic.
yeah,
And I put it inside of the using our iterations feature. So I'm planning to have everything, I mean, at least the design direction wrapped up um, in 2 weeks max, so that we can have something to do in 13.9. Um, yeah, but I mean, the timeline can change depending on how people collaborate there. If no one collaborates, I'll decide the path forward.
cool.
Yeah, it was.
Uh,
I was just gonna say, yeah, I read through it. I'm digesting it, but it would be. I hope to see, like you said, FE and back end feedback because I was curious to see like what are the trade offs from the technical standpoint. So I'll I'll definitely digest this more and give some feedback.
Thank you, Catherine.
um, cool. The next one was just an FYI, really, that James noticed sort of before we went on break last year, that SCM, so like source code, AMAL, so like stage monthly active users or well, it's Gmail. So group monthly active users for source code is about 2 times higher than monthly active users for code review based on the way those two are currently measured. And so source code is measured as get write operations. And at the time when James pulled this, code review was measured by people who open, merge, or close a merge request, which is a smaller group of people, but potentially a aligned group of people with sort of the people who can also perform get write operations. It's probably the most correlated group of people that you would have. Um, but it's like a 2 times difference. And then the code review numbers look in some cases closer to the verify numbers. So we used to always, and this is important because historically product has talked about how like if you can adopt SCM or if you can adopt source code, because source code used to be encompassing of code review and there wasn't that distinction, you adopted verify and like that was like the flow we were trying to like promote. Now it sort of seems like if you adopt source code, that doesn't necessarily mean that you adopt code review, but code review is more correlated to adopting CI. And so we're trying to figure out if this drop off is real or if there's some outliers. And so I just wanted to link you a couple issues where I did a bunch of initial investigation on some really terrible queries and VLOOKUP like comparisons. And then I opened a data issue when I got back yesterday. And so I think Matthew's going to look at that hopefully this week. but it'd be worth taking a look at, because if that's true, that there is that sort of drop off, we may need to think more about how, like, why. We probably have to dig in hardcore and figure out, like, what are you doing for code review then at that point? Or are you not doing it at all? And like, sort of, are there things that we need to be thinking about in terms of driving you into that workflow that we're not addressing? So something to keep an eye on. If you have thoughts on it, or if you go and look and have opinions on the data, then that's welcome as well.
Yeah. I'm curious, or can you explain why in the paid AMAU code review is significantly lower than verify? Like verify for October, it's in the 100,000s, and code review is only 25,000.
That one I don't know. I don't understand the difference on the paid side either, because it is a stark drop off compared to like the free users, which sort of doesn't make sense. And you have to realize too that like paid largely would then come from, well, that only comes from self-managed. So that comes from like usage ping data. I guess if it's filtered by paid, like I wouldn't expect that, but I don't know. That's why we've asked the data team to sort of validate that data as well. But yeah, in the paid, it's sort of, I guess, more concerning that code reviews off the table completely, because I actually don't know how you would use CI without a merge request.
Yeah, you can use with the yeah, you can use it normally. Just every time you commit something, it builds for you, and then you can push the results to another tool if you want.
Because if you were like in GitHub for your SCM, you could use GitLab CI through like,
yeah, for example, yeah, we actually support that external CI for external repos. I think that's the name. Yeah, so because a lot of teams don't want to migrate everything to GitLab, they love GitHub or another tool, and so they mirror all of the Git operations to GitLab. So they have like a copy of the repository in GitLab, and then they run the CI in GitLab, and then it pushes back the results to another tool. I don't know how common that is or how popular that solution is, but I know it's possible.
Yeah, I don't know on that one either. So James pulled that top set of data that's in the issue description, and then I pulled a set of data that's sort of like the last comment in that issue that was correlated. And my data actually looks a lot, my data is more perplexing in that it actually shows like over 100% of MR users are SCM users, which like math doesn't work correctly for either. So yeah, I don't have answers for you.
No, yeah, no, I think it's at this point, it's just sharing that there is this discrepancy, and yeah, trying to understand what is wrong. Yeah, one curiosity, why do we only have paid email for self-managed and not for GitLab.com?
I think for GitLab.com, we don't have good data segmentation sometimes. Depending on what you're looking at, we sometimes can't segment data. And I think those queries are more complicated to try and segment. I also, and this happens in self-managed, but I think less so. On GitLab.com, you can't necessarily distinguish paid and not paid, because we know that they're on a plan, but lots of GitLab.com has, like if you have public projects on GitLab.com, those appear as gold things, right? Because we give you gold for free on .com if it's a public project, even though you're not paid, and like open source groups. And
right, okay.
so like our data on .com is sort of messy in some situations. It's much harder to like start to distinguish what is paid and not paid versus like what's on a plan and not.
Yeah.
But I
It
don't
would
know
have
why.
to be at the group level, because you can have one group that is not paying and you have active users there, and then you have another group which is paying and you have active users. And so what would you count as being paid or not paid? Yeah, okay. So the not paid AML for GitLab.com is everything, basically. Okay.
Correct.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing this. Definitely interesting, and yeah, I'm curious to find out the results for this.
Cool. And the last one was sort of, and I think this is relevant to like the first one in terms of the issue, and just generally, I think we probably need to get, I know there's lots of questions internally about what to do with reviewers. I'm sort of just curious, like what people had seen, what you've personally seen or heard from other people that, other people might not have about reviewers so far on GitLab.com.
I think we're mostly on top of it. Yeah, when the feature was enabled, I was missing the quick action because I used that a lot when it was only with assignees, and so I kept unassigning, reassigning, assigning myself and others. And so I tried to do that out of habit, but it didn't show up. So, but we're already on top of that, and we will add the quick action. We now have access to the review requests, and the counter is working, which is amazing. I think that is a great win. Although, I mean, of course, as we've seen, there has been complaints, and there will be complaints about this. But I think it is what it is at this point. Yeah, and the other part I think is just the handoff, especially the re-review, because that affects more people, and I think the author is usually in control of the merge requests feedback loop, but the reviewers may be left a bit outside and they don't know what is happening. So I think the requesting a re-review is really important. Other than that, of course I've seen people requesting other things like having an indication if the reviewer has approved or not in the reviewer's side. There are many other things that we could do, but I think the most important and relevant ones we're doing, and we're working on them.
Catherine, anything that you've seen or noticed or read or?
No, actually. And I actually just noticed the drop down today. So actually, I'll look around to see if there's been any feedback, but nothing has come in by way of research, like surveys or things like that so far.
Cool. Yeah, I would generally agree, Pedro. I think that we sort of address the immediate things. I think one of the things that comes up, and one of the things that I commented in the issue from the first item was, in my mind, I have like a long-term thought that like once you go into the reviewers field, you're permanently there. And I've expressed that in like a couple threads, and I think that is causing some heartburn for people because it doesn't work like that today. And so I'm, on the one hand, I feel like it's something we should solve quickly. On the other hand, it feels like people could use it just like they use the assignees field and sort of get beyond that today. But I don't know if that creates more friction or frustration in using it for people. So yeah, I haven't seen anything otherwise. It's like incredibly frustrating so far, and I think getting through that design phase issue will sort of help us figure out what we want to go do next there, or at least plot a course of all the things that we need to go do to get to an end state. I guess we also, and maybe we need to do this in the other issue, is like align like internally on if permanence of people in that field. Like, do we all agree that like there is an end state where like everyone's in there, or do we think that people will come and go from that field? I think that's probably one of the biggest, like, I'm not sure I think feels like we're on a page where like it's a permanent thing, but I don't know if we've solidified that in anything that we've done so far or communicated it that way.
Yeah. I think I really appreciate you, like the way you communicated that we are intentionally not prescribing a way for people to use the reviewers field, and you did that often. So yeah, I think, and that was really important, just to see the discussions that would naturally evolve, and the suggestions that people would have. Okay, how do we use it, or how do we shouldn't use it? And I agree. I think at the end of the day, they can still use it as they were using the assignees. They can unassign and unassign. Is that enough? Maybe not. And especially because I think the interesting part is now that I don't think it's so much about the reviewers, is that now we have the assignee field just for something, and people could use it for the author, and the author never changes, right? So would you stay assigned as the author in the assignee field forever? And if so, I mean, reviewers could also expect to also be assigned forever, or maybe they would unassign themselves once they have given feedback. But what about the assignee? How do you request the author to look back at the merge requests, right? And so I think it's not just the reviewers field. I think it's just because the fact we have now two fields, people don't know how all of these roles and what they should do with the two fields together. Because if we only had reviewers, or if we only had assignees, it's that, and people would still use it. But now with two fields, it could be confusing. I think that's the main thing that people are struggling with. And at the same time, I think a lot of the feedback that we received regarding how we should use it, I think I was assuming it was tangentially related to the fact that you couldn't easily access your merge request where you're a reviewer. Now that you can, maybe that problem will go away a bit more. Because before you're like, okay, I assign myself as a reviewer, but I can't easily see them. So should I unassign myself so that I get a to-do once I'm assigned again? Or should I move to assignee so that I can easily access them? So I think that kind of dilutes the problem a little bit. Yeah, and I agree with you. I think at the end of that design issue, we will have a better understanding of what we can do to help people with this problem. And I think at the same time, we'll have a better understanding of how much of a problem it really is once we've looked at what other tools are doing, what possible approaches there are, and other inputs. And for that regard, I think Catherine's input is really important because she has talked with many people about this and similarly related problems. So yeah.
Yeah, this is interesting because I definitely will want to see how that issue turns out, because right now my mind is going towards the reviewers kind of staying permanent, like you're saying, because you know who needs to review this MR. Like there's probably a outline thing. These people need to review it. And then the assignee is like the transient state. It's like, of these 3 reviewers, who's currently reviewing it? Maybe they're currently assigned. I don't know, but I'll definitely think about this more and look back into the research. But it is an interesting problem. Yeah.
You know, if you look in the issue, and let me actually share my screen. I think it's better if we see it visually. So one of the approaches that I shared, which is a very interesting way to solve this problem, is how Garrett does it with their attention set. I don't know if it's the most useful approach for us at GitLab, but basically it kind of automates all of this requests, and like you don't have to necessarily ping someone to get their attention. You can if you want, but one of the things that they say is if you reply, if you reply to a thread or a conversation, it adds all of the participants of comment conversations that the user is replying to. So if I just comment on something that you and Kai also commented on, even if I don't mention you, because you were part of that conversation, you would be part by default of the attention set. So you will, like, your attention will be called to the merge request, and there's something that you need to do there, basically. But one of the things that they say here, and it's very interesting, is where is it? Oh, they have a section just for assignee, right? So they have, I think, at least three roles. They have the owners, or actually, let me show you here. Yeah, they have the owner, the uploader, the reviewers, and then you have CCs. So they have a lot of different roles of people that can be involved in the change. That's what they call their merge requests in Garrett. And they also have the assignee. And they actually say that it can be used together with the attention set. We do not recommend doing so. Using both features like confusing. The distinct feature of the assignee compared to the attention set is that only one user can be the assignee at the same time. So it's like, the person that needs to take action, but it can be the author or it can be multiple reviewers. So it's hard to use just the assignee field. And so what they say is, you can use the assignee field to single out one person or escalate if there are multiple reviewers. But since every reviewer in the attention set is expected to take action, it's not necessary to single out one person. And when they say every reviewer, it includes basically anyone here. So it can be someone that is watching the change or someone that uploaded the change. So basically the attention set is not only for reviewers, it's for anyone. So they say that using the assignee field in addition, it doesn't bring any significant benefits. Yeah, so yeah, I think this is an interesting take on it, and I encourage you to read this in your own time. But yeah, this conversation reminded me about this. Yeah, I'll actually share the link in the agenda.
That's interesting.
Oh, it looks like we're over time. Just
Yeah, I think we
noticed.
are. Cool. Well, thanks everyone. It was good to see you all again. Enjoy. Welcome back to the new year, and hopefully it's off to a good start. Can't be ruined yet. We're only 5 days in, so or it could
Pretty
be.
good so far.
I don't know. Yeah, like, but yeah, it's good to see everyone, and we'll chat again soon.
You too.
Bye.
See you. Bye bye.